The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
Keeping your mind, your mission, your mind. It's called Mission Minded. We do it every single week right here with the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank, Michael Coleman, good friend of mine. Get to say we don't break bread because we don't eat. Well, we need to go out and eat. We haven't eaten in a while.
That's right.
I need to meet you down there for breakfast. Or you can come up to my neck of the woods here in Birmingham. We need to break some bread, and we have some great conversation. We talk a lot of business. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. We get a lot of emails. And a lot of those emails are based off things we talk about on this particular show, which is great. So we love those coming in. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. We're going to do those emails today during the show. And then we have Bite by Bite, which is a show specific to the Heart of Alabama Food Bank and, of course, Feeding America. What are we talking about on Bite by Bite today, which is going to air right after this show here on our Tony Curry Radio network of wonderful shows?
Yeah, we're going to, the Feeding America CEO has announced her retirement from CEO.
Oh, we had her on our show.
Yeah, that's right.
Several months ago. Yeah, sure did.
Yeah, Claire Babineau-Fontenot, which, for those of you who may not know, is no surprise from Louisiana with a name like that. Has done remarkable things, really transformed the culture in a very positive way, Feeding America. And her leadership will be missed. And so we anticipate there's always going to be some changes, and with every level of leadership that comes in. So I was just going to kind of touch on a little bit about changes. We even have changes going on in our organization. And of course, we have subordinate food banks, if you will, a little bit smaller food banks. We call them affiliate food banks. They're contracted with us, and they're going through some changes as a result of what we're doing. So that's always just hard. So it's just going to be a few minutes to talk about that.
Any reason why she's getting out now? Does it have anything to do with the politics of what's going on in the world of ours? And
no.
Second of all, is that a job you'd want?
No. First of all, no. No, but it's really no to both those questions because, this was evidently the way she explained it. Was planned. She could see it on the horizon about 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So this has nothing to do with the administration or any, DI stuff or things like that. And I don't even know what she's going to be going to. She's still going to be closely associated. I don't know if that means serving on the board of Feeding America or what role she will play. It may just be as a cheerleader off to the side. I really don't know what she's going to do, if she's going to another job or if she's going to fully retire. But she just made the announcement, and obviously, she's been here, I think now about 6 or 7 years, and has done a lot of good in her time here. And she'll be missed. But my prayer is that we get somebody, leaders are here for a season. I have rarely seen, although it does happen, I've rarely seen leaders who are able to come in and stay long-term, but stay fresh.
Yep.
A lot of them that come in and they stay a long time, but unfortunately they don't continue to evolve and grow as a leader. And so, then you kind of get kind of stagnant, take things for granted. You're not looking to improve. That's typically what happens. So change in leadership is good, but you have to always account for it, to roll the dice to see who you're going to get.
I've got a perfect.
What I bet they're going to make. Yeah.
I've got a perfect email to go along with that. And we didn't know that you were going to bring that up, but she was also the CEO of Walmart, correct? For quite some time?
Not CEO of Walmart.
CFO.
Her background is an attorney.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember exactly what her role was, but I know it was in senior executive
Yeah.
leadership. Yeah, so she was very
She was
high
a big
up.
dog. Yeah, she was a big
That's
dog,
right, big dog. Yep.
and people were surprised that she left that job in order to take this other job, if I remember correctly, by doing some
Right, right.
homework,
Yeah.
which was great for her, and she really felt the need to be in the service industry, and she certainly did that. Thomas in Birmingham wants to know what's the biggest difference between Walmart and Target. He mentions the fact that the earnings report just came out. I guess the CEO. And now I'm going to get my CEOs, my CFOs messed up. But anyway, the guy who runs Target is evidently retiring, or he's quitting, or he's resigning. I guess he's resigning this week,
Yeah.
and he's been there for like 20 years. And I think a lot of people like to look at Target and Walmart as kind of the same thing. Maybe Target is a little higher up, maybe higher price stuff, better stuff than Walmart. But what does that say about what's going on in the marketplace when Target has a loss and Walmart has a gain at the same time?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, because there can be a lot of things. So I'll talk about that. Although I will confess up front, I saw where Target CEO was retiring. I did not get into the information as to the reasons why.
They needed a
So
change
there's
of leadership as well. They basically said it's time for a leadership change. He admitted that, and evidently
yeah,
they have not done well with their shareholders.
yeah. Well, I know at one time they went through a lot of, and again, for lack of a better term, let's just say woke culture or woke initiatives. And that had some effect on them. Now, I think you're exactly right. The general public looks at Walmart and looks at Target. In many ways, they're alike. You can both buy groceries and get clothes and underwear. It's kind of a one-stop shop, and um, I actually have a Target that's closer to my house than Walmart, and I go out of convenience. Target doesn't hit all the things that Walmart has. Walmart's a little bit tended to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more uh, offer more choices. But you're right. Even though Target will offer some bargain brands and some off-branded stuff, it's just regarded as typically a little bit higher price, a little bit higher, or at least projected as higher quality, appeals to a little bit higher uh, class or a little bit higher interest. But basically the same thing. But it's very interesting because both those companies and all major retailers, they look at trends, they see what other their competitors are doing. They lots of times like to see what's working and what's not. Walmart's done a pretty good job of understanding who their target audience is. And again, I don't want to imply that Target has not done this, although I know that Target got rid of a lot of the LGBTQ
Hmm?
things that they were promoting
That seemed
and
to be the beginning of the end for the CEO.
right. And look, what I don't know is without researching it further, was this something that as a leader, lots of times you have to uh, distinguish between what are your personal beliefs and what's good for the company. And lots of times leaders intertwine those and are not able to distinguish those. And so I don't know if this person was personally wanted to advocate, or maybe he felt like shareholders were clamoring for this, or who knows. But obviously, at some point, they determined that it was not good for the business to have such an emphasis on a select population like the LGBTQ. And so then kind of turned around on that. But lots of times when you do that, like Bud Light,
Jeez.
did a very similar thing, lost billions of dollars,
And
lost
have not got it back.
large share
And yeah,
prices. They're not fully back.
yeah.
I've noticed they've gotten some popular comedians.
Peyton Manning's one of their people now. Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
brought some real famous people. So you just imagine how many dollars they're sinking into personalities and stuff to try to get market share back. And I haven't heard an update of where they are. I will say this: it's interesting that this came out just now. Cracker Barrel. Have you heard what's going on with Cracker Barrel?
I have not.
Okay. So Cracker Barrel's in the news right now. And if, for those of you who know, Cracker Barrel appeals to, middle-aged country folks, very popular Southern folks. And I, and they have a little country store attached to the restaurant. That's their model. Well, in the logo, it had a country gentleman with the old oak barrel, I think it was. I may not describe it perfectly.
Yeah.
And then it's got a country place, some wording underneath it, like a country place or for you or something like that. And then the Cracker Barrel. Well, their CEO, who is regarded as having a bent towards wanting to change the culture, the appearance of Cracker Barrel, basically took the picture, the barrel, the wording out, and just almost took the identical, just the Cracker Barrel, and just left it as a plain. And they're kind of redoing the insides, making it more generic, if you will, and less country. They showed a picture of here's an interior of what it used to be. So you'd have farm stuff hanging off, and here's what a typical upgrade looks like now. Well, there's been this rebellion. Stuff like that doesn't typically get me, spun up. But it's one of those things to where if you just can get a small group sometimes that are really upset about it, and then they start posting it on social media, and now it's viral. And they talk about the millions of dollars. I want to say $540 million of net loss since she's taken over CEO. And she said, her response was, because again, I wonder, are they just tone deaf to what the general public wants or who their customer base is?
Yeah.
But she said, hey, we've gotten basically the vast majority, but nothing but positive. And yet there's this negative trend where Cracker Barrel is sinking. And it goes to show you that, people connect. And I think and it goes back to connecting back to this. I think Walmart's very good at identifying who their population is, how to give them the best price, because that's what people go to Walmart for convenience and best price. And let's appeal to them. And regardless of what the company, an individual within the company may feel like, let's don't do anything intentionally anyway to alienate or whatever our population. Let's do what we do. Let's focus on what we do, and let's always try to do it the best we can and offer the best product at the lowest price. And I think they've done a very good job of that. But you can have something like Cracker Barrel, and look, I hadn't been to Cracker Barrel in a while, but a lot of the time in my home, I just have a small hometown, but it's right there on the interstate, and it's got a Cracker Barrel, has plenty of, it stays wrapped up, so there's plenty of followers. And you mess with something that somebody has, and maybe this reminds them of their grandmother, or they reflect back when they were growing up, and they have fond memories of simpler things in life. And Cracker Barrel allows them to connect with that. And when you go and you mess with that, something as simple as a brand. It wasn't like, hey, they started finding rats in their food or moldy food, the quality of the food and all that.
No,
it's something as simple as that. And you mess with it, and you can tank a major company.
You really can. There's a difference between having a core P1 group and being semi-successful and having a core P1 group and being really successful. And that's what Cracker Barrel was. And you don't want to piss off those people. If anything, you should ask first, I think, before it's more of a democratic, hey, listen, what do you think about what we're doing? They're pretty good about doing it. I Christmas shop there. They got one-of-a-kind Christmas stuff. I love their store. And that's one of our places where me and the 3 kids go there at least once or twice during the college, just because it smells good, it looks good. They got all the Christmas stuff out. They got one-of-a-kind stuff. And so, to go along with that and say the Target thing, in order to try to be all-inclusive and make everyone happy, Target decided to take a very, 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 very small portion of their audience, which were bisexual, LGBTQ, whatever it was,
Yeah.
And try to put them up front and center on their end caps. And it didn't fly. And it came back to bite them in the ass. The same way it did with Budweiser. And I think what is happening here is other businesses who feel like they want to be all inclusive, that want to be there for everybody, and you can't. Maybe you'll look back on this and go, listen, when Budweiser tried to do it or when Target tried to do it, it came up and bit them in the hindquarters. And really, it doesn't do any good for anybody, because then the LGBTQ community is out, because they don't want everything to do with Target, because they don't have anyone that's resembling or providing what they need service-wise.
Yeah.
And then the business has lost its butt because they stuck their neck out for you. And so maybe this will teach you something. You and I did a show on this, the whole Black Lives Matter thing about, whether your organization was going to post anything on your website about Black. And you're like, no, that's not what we do. That's not our mission.
That's right. Well, think about this too. This lesson has been around for so long in the marketing world about if it's broke, don't fix it. And of course, the main thing that people go back to is the whole new Coke experience. And for people who weren't around at that time, where it was Coke, and all of a sudden, because they felt like they were losing market share to Pepsi, they came out with new Coke that was a little bit sweeter and tasted like Pepsi, and then there was such a rebellion. Matter of fact, one of the shows I like, King of Queens, Doug Heffernan on there was talking about, he said he's telling his wife Carrie about it, and he referred to it as New Coke, or also known as syrupy piss water. That's what it tasted like. But so then they go back, they shifted. Now, to their credit, they did not go too long, because there was such a clamoring and pushback, that they went back, and then they had Coke for those who like this, and then New Coke. So instead of just extending another brand of it and saying, hey, this is an additional flavor of Coke, or additional extra sweetened Coke, whatever it was, and just, they lost tons of market share. Now, of course, Coke is very healthy now, and would never make that kind of mistake.
I don't think you can even buy that new Coke. I don't think they even have it available. Now they're
coming out. They don't.
Now they're doing the Mexico Coke, which is the pure cane sugar Coke, which is supposed to taste a lot better than the stuff we use, the corn syrup or whatever. But
think about it when, it just amazes me. It's a basic leadership thing too. The leader of your company says, these are our core values. And so let's focus on the core values. And it's nothing wrong with making changes, but if you're shifting because your values shift, then you're kind of adrift, and that affects not only employees and their morale, but it affects shareholders. So if you go, look, we're getting a lot of pressure from this group, let's do something to appease them. And then, this was a major catastrophe because we upset this group, let's shift back. That whole leadership, when you talk about you lose market share and you lose investors and people who want to invest in your company, that's why it's like, no, I'm sure the board of directors went to them and said, look, you've in essence, it's not that you haven't done good things, but we've lost confidence in that you can stand up and say, follow me. Yep. Because if you're adrift, you've lost the ability to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Something else, and I would think that what's the one thing about Cracker Barrel that is unlike any other store? I'm just throwing this out as a business person. We're just going to brainstorm a little bit here. But Cracker Barrel is always by the interstate. You can't find a Cracker Barrel that's not near an interstate. They don't have them. They don't make them. That's part of their building plan, is to make sure that they. Now, I don't know if that's because you can see their sign better from an interstate, but you'll never see a Cracker Barrel more than I think it's 2 miles off an interstate. You're not allowed to have a Cracker Barrel more than 2 miles off an interstate, which, imagine if you had a Cracker Barrel, a downtown area or something like that. I don't even know how that would fly, but that's always been kind of their thing. And I'm not sure how that plays into because it's for the road weary. It's for the person who is on the road, not only for the farmer and for the person that wanted a good country meal, but also for the person that wanted to, the Route 66, shack up for the night and find us a nice place, a nice meal to have, a nice hotel, and then hit the road again tomorrow morning. And that's what the Cracker Barrel is all about. So info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Ross, in Vestavia mentioned here, and it's a long email, but mentioned that he gave up the corporate world during COVID. We were doing this show during COVID as well, and it was a fun time to do this show. And now is working for himself. He said, I'm making about half as much money as I did back in 2020, but I'm so much more happier now. Would you please share my story? Really not a question there. We know a lot of people that tended to do that. It takes a special person to get out of the salary world and get into the work for yourself world. I'm here to tell you, you have to work your hind out.
Yeah, you could speak to that directly.
I sure can. There are so many pros that come along with it, but there are so many cons. I miss the days of knowing that I was going to get a $3,500 check every Friday. That doesn't happen anymore. It comes in clumps. But yeah, talk a little bit about that. And if in fact you're deciding to maybe get out of the corporate world and do your own thing,
I've certainly thought about it many times. When you step aside, do you want to get into the consulting business, help other nonprofits? I'm interested in all that kind of stuff. But let me say what it sounds like, how he was able to make that sacrifice. So if in fact, because there's a lot of people who get up and go to work every day and are miserable because they hate their job, and it's just 8 hours of grinding and everything they do. They don't enjoy it, don't necessarily enjoy the people or the environment or whatever else, but they have to feed family, they have to do it. But lots of times, the very people who are doing things that they hate, when you look at their life, they live extravagantly. And I'm not talking about lifestyles of the rich and famous extravagantly, but more extravagantly than they have to. So kudos to this guy and anybody else who says, you know what, I want the freedom. Freedom brings a lot of happiness and contentment. If he didn't want to get in the corporate world or wanted to get out of the corporate world, or maybe he was forced out of it, because of COVID, and instead of going back to it, he's like, no, I'm going to carve a new path. Mm-hmm. But if he's only bringing half the money, that meant he was disciplined. And, he was not living beyond his means. He was not stretching every month, because there's some people who they might get a $10,000 raise. And the first thing they do is not, how do I save $10,000 more dollars, but okay, I'm going to get the new car. And then they get another raise, and they chase this job and they chase this job. And then they move houses. And, I know people like that. I have people in my family like that. I mean, just always, what's the next thing? And it's really a lot of great life lessons without knowing anything more about that story. There's got to be a lot of great life lessons on, live within your means, plan for the future. And when you do that and you're responsible, it can offer you up opportunities that maybe you never even imagined. But when you get, so, you and I are both 59. I'm very blessed because I love my job, and I think you love doing what you do, and you've done it a very long time, do it very well. I would hate to have to go do something else that I didn't like in my life because I had not been a wise steward and have to go just grind it because when you're grinding at almost 60 years old, that's a different grind than when you're 30 or 35.
Yeah.
And it can really affect your health. And, we don't have a lot of reserve health to fall back on at this age.
I remember my brother worked at General Electric. He repaired airplane engines in a factory, and he hated his job. I mean, he hated his job. There was a lot of politics going on there. He had a lot of seniority. Then he got let go, laid off, and then was doodling around in electrical work. And he enjoyed doing that stuff. He was like a doodler, kind of a handyman kind of guy, but we know about handyman now. Yeah. And wasn't making any money. And of course, his ex or his wife was also working at General Electric. She did not get laid off. And then he got called back like a month before. He had to get back within 5 years to pick up right where he left off. And they called him back. And so he got back. And as much as he hated that, he had an end line. He's like, okay, I'm going to do this for 4 more years, then I can retire, because he was going to get a pension. Now he
Yeah.
gets $6,000 a month, and he's like in his, I guess he's 68, 69 years old, but couldn't
Yeah.
be happier,
Yeah.
as far as I know.
Yeah.
But that was for 25 or 30 years of his life that he feels like he just pissed away. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, is it worth it? You know what I mean? Is it worth
Yeah.
living? If you knew, hey, listen, you're going to work a job for 20 years and it's going to suck. But at the age of 50, you're going to be a millionaire and you'll never have to work another day of your life. How many people would take that deal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Quite a
because it does,
few.
because it does destroy your life. Now, my brother, I think, is probably leaning towards being an alcoholic now, and I think that probably plays into some of the things that he didn't like. So yeah, it's kind of weird how all that works out. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. We got time for one more question. Todd wants to know, he's starting a business. He wants to know if he should go all cash, all debit, or the mixture of both. I hate places that only take debit. I went to a high school football game last night, and I was like, if they're not taking cash, you're not going in. I'm not giving them a debit card for $8. I'm not doing it. I know that using a debit card costs the business money. I know some places give you a cash discount if you use cash, but a lot of places like Protective, the stadium downtown, they don't take cash. Your cash is no good
Yeah.
there. And I,
Yeah.
I like to spend cash. I like to use cash because it seems like every time I use my debit card, I got to go look back. I've been charged $53 for a hot dog before. And
Yeah.
I don't always check my ledger every single month. And I'm
Right.
probably losing money. So what's the best way to do business?
Yeah. So, battle that same thing, asking those same kind of questions when I owned a small little business, or my wife, owned a small little business, a little boutique. Typically, debit cards don't call, but the credit cards, they charge fees. But you have to have the same setup. So there's this whole, you got to be connected to a company to be able to take debit cards. I will tell you this, every business is different. My feeling was, yes, there's a transaction fee that typically runs 3 to 4%, unless you're like a Walmart. A Walmart has so much volume, they can negotiate their, like, I don't know, a half a cent per transaction
Yeah.
fee. So they can cut a lot of that out. But small businesses don't have the ability to do that. What I always looked at was, like in the boutique industry, credit cards were ubiquitous. I mean, you had to be able to, because that's how just people for higher end. Most people are not walking around with 100 to 150 to $200 to buy nice end stuff. They're just out of convenience and they put it on a credit card. So what we tried to do then was price that in, and it elevated our prices a little bit. Now, again, every decision you make in the business community then could generate other considerations. So the question is, what competition? I don't know what this business is, but if I didn't have any competition and I had a field and, people are coming to entertainment venues or whatever, maybe I could just, if people come expect to have cash, whatever, I don't know. But if it's higher end things, it's tough for people to walk around with large volumes of cash. And there's lots of times you're going to turn away business if you don't offer flexibility.
Yeah.
Now, but there are even alternatives to that. So lots of times, like, you're still going to get some fees, but there's like, there's Apple Cash. So it's still very similar, same type of get up. There's still some fees associated with it. But then there's even like Venmo for business and Cash App and some of those things like that that don't maybe have the same fee structure.
Yeah.
Don't put a burden on you. But bottom line is everybody has to, there's no right answer for everybody. Here's what I know is that you're going to turn away business because you don't have enough options. The question is, does that hurt you enough that it's going to affect your business and keep you from being competitive and turn a profit? If it is, hey, I can't turn away half my customers who are going, then I'm going to do that. And then how do I negotiate that? You may have to just eat that fee, and you have to decide, can I afford to do that? Is it, if I raise my prices, do I have the guy next door who's doing the same thing I am? And it's going to put me at a competitive disadvantage. All of those things have to be considered. But, we ultimately chose to go with the credit card to try to add a percent or two to the price or a couple of dollars to cover that. Same thing with shipping too. We shipped at a flat fee. When we were shipping across the country, because somebody had ordered something online, we could lose $5 or $10 an order just on the shipping. So again, we try to build in a lot of that into the pricing. So really take time and investigate. And there's just so many factors to consider. I really would encourage that person to go onto AI and use AI like ChatGPT, ask that same question, what are all the considerations? And then let that guide them through that process. I think they'd get a lot of relevant information from that.
I went to a Domino's the other night. It was $47.23, and I gave them a 50. They wouldn't take it because they don't take bills over 20s. And I was like, It's $47. You can just have it. You can just keep it. I don't even want the change. They would not take I was like, and of course I didn't have my wallet with me. I was like, this is ridiculous.
It's a different world.
And there's something in the Bible about the mark of the beast, which I think is starting to come into play here a little bit. It's not too long before we'll have the chips embedded into our arms, and we'll have the number on our forehead, and we'll just be tapping heads in order to buy whatever the hell we want at Cracker Barrel. Great stuff, my friend. info@TonyCurryRadio.net. Keep those emails coming. Coming up here next, it is Bite by Bite. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.